Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Rangers Review transfer special. We seem to be doing a lot of these recently. I'm absolutely delighted to say we're joined on the line once again by Chris Reeve from the brilliantly popular the Talk Norwich City podcast. It's brilliant to have you on, Chris.
What a lovely, kind intro, Derek. I'll definitely come on again after that. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm really excited to get stuck into the conversation around Dowell Dino, as he's known down here.
Yeah, when you call him like that, Chris, I think that certainly sent excitement racing amongst the Rangers support. But if folk that tune into the Rangers Review, folks, you will remember Chris from our chat in January when he spoke very highly of Todd Cantwell. Boy, what a player we've got in our hands, Chris. He has been sensational since coming up here. Absolutely magnificent. You were spot on with your assessment of him. The fans love him already. What a player Rangers have got in their hands here.
Derek, I hate to say I told you so. I'm sorry to come across as arrogant, but it's true. You know, I think Todd just needed a new lease of life. He needed an opportunity. He needed a fan base that were fully behind him. He needed a bit of pressure. He needed a bit of expectation. He needed to be given a platform where, you know, he had to prove a point. And, you know, I've had, you know, plenty of conversations with him since he signed for Rangers. And I can share with you, he is loving it, genuinely loving it. And his love for the Rangers fans as well is completely genuine. And he is absolutely thriving. He's so excited. He's particularly complimentary of the way that Michael Beale's playing him, the belief that he's given him as well. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised. And do you know what? I'm really happy to hear because, you know, he's had a tough time in the last couple of seasons at Norwich City. And, you know, part of it, he wasn't even at Norwich City because he was out on loan at Bournemouth. And, you know, it really struggled. And so, yeah, I'm delighted. I feel a bit like I've got some like proud dad vibes around Todd Cantwell. I'm buzzing to see him. It's great to see him pull out his surfer celebration for the first time in a long while as well. And of course, you know, scoring in an old firm in your first season. I know you guys play each other, you know, quite often, but you know, that's good in your first season, in my opinion. I don't think he's been swallowed by the intense cauldron of noise, which is the old firm, you know, at either club. And so, yeah, I think Rangers have a lot to be excited for around Todd, and you should absolutely believe the hype. And you know what's really encouraging, just before we, I love Todd, as you know. What's really encouraging about Todd is that this is only his first season, right? And so imagine what it's going to be like when Michael Beale is able to bring in more players that he wants within his squad that will complement Todd even more next season. Really, really exciting time to be a Rangers fan with regards to having Todd Cantwell in your team.
Yeah, he's been a breath of fresh air, that's for sure. One such player he'll be playing with next season, Chris, is another former Norwich City midfielder, and Kieran Dowell, of course. That move signed and sealed. We're just awaiting the official announcement on that one. Dowell, of course, joined Norwich back in 3 years ago now, in the summer of 2020 from Everton. He had a few loan spells prior to that. I remember watching him score a hat-trick for Wigan Athletic when they thumped Hull City 8-0 at the DW. I thought he was a rare player. Went to Norwich. What has his last 3 seasons been like down at Carrow Road?
Do you know, Derek, I have to be honest, he's not set the world alight at Norwich City, but I would say one of the reasons for that is, well, the main reason for that is he's actually just had a couple of really bad injuries, to be honest with you, or at least lingering injuries. I think one was with his knee. I forget the other one, so forgive me. But he has had a couple of lengthy spells out. You have to remember as well at Norwich City, it's been turbulent. You know, we've had a relegation, we've had a promotion. You know, he's then had to then work himself back into the side. He's had I think 2 different managers at Norwich City as well. So, you know, style changes, etc. So unfortunately, I think Kieran's fallen victim to a lot of the Norwich City turbulence, which could comfort Rangers fans here who are a little bit apprehensive perhaps of his injury record, the fact that he hasn't played, you know, lots for Norwich City. But what I would say about Kieran Dowell is I'd hugely compliment him on his form of late. When David Wagner came into Norwich City post Dean Smith, we started to, at the beginning, in the honeymoon phase, we were playing this sort of proactive attacking football. And, you know, David Wagner started to get the best out of Kieran Dowell. He was finding the space. His touch was excellent. And what I think is Kieran Dowell's key strength, I guess similar to Todd Cantwell, to be fair, which I'll go onto in a minute, is his ability to pick a pass, a through ball, you know, perhaps a lofted cross, if you want to say it like that. He's got an absolutely wicked delivery from a set piece. I think he's a free kick specialist as well. In our title-winning season behind closed doors in 2020-21, he scored an absolute postage stamp free kick away at Derby, which was a really important game for us to win, to go on to then win the title back to the Premier League. I wish I could go back to those days now. But yeah, so I think there's some real sort of key strengths in Kieran Dowell's game. But at the same time, he has got this lingering injury record where, you know, if I was a Rangers fan, I would be concerned about that, to be honest with you. Derek, when I first saw that Rangers were in for Dowell-Dino, as we like to call him, and by the way, I need to talk about Dowell-Dino recently. So we started to call him Dowell-Dino because we hadn't really seen much of Kieran Dowell. And all of a sudden, he had like this purple patch of form where he was just scoring like outstanding goals, you know, again, these brilliant set pieces, the you know, bits of skill, twists and turns. We started calling him Dowell-Dino, at least I have anyway. Anyway, what's my point? I was a bit surprised, I have to admit, because of the fact that you've signed Todd Cantwell. And weirdly, and you know, maybe I'm not particularly educated on the world of Rangers, Derek, but I've got a weird feeling that he might potentially be a player that's been signed as a backup to Todd Cantwell. I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that, but I'm sort of thinking a club of Rangers' size signs a player on a free. Don't forget, you know, that's got championship title winning experience, that's played with Todd. You know, he has played with Todd as well. I don't know. I personally think that could be what this is. However, I could be completely wrong on that. So yeah, I'm surprised, I have to admit, that you're going for him. But at the same time, I know that his qualities are good enough to play well and deliver for Rangers for sure.
Yeah. It's interesting. Michael Beale said in a recent press conference that the players that will come in the summer, you'll be able to identify the links with the coaching staff and himself down the years. And it's been interesting. Kieran Dowell was a player that Rangers were linked with when Stephen Gerrard and Michael Beale were at the helm before he went to Sheffield United on loan. Right. So there's that link there. But in terms of Beale likes these hybrid players, if you like, Chris, players that can play a number of positions. Can Kieran play a number of positions, you reckon?
Yeah, I think so. The reason why I've said he could be back up to Todd is he often does play through the middle. He's played left, he's played right at times for Norwich City. So as you are very right, and I'd validate that, he is one of those versatile players that can play multiple positions. Similar to Todd, actually, to a certain degree, although Todd will tell you he definitely wants to play through the middle and not out wide. Yeah, I think Kieran Dowell could play multiple roles, and it just gives Rangers options. If there's injuries, if you know you have to change tactics based upon the opposition you're coming up against. So yeah, I think Michael Beale's very right to say that.
Yeah. The injury situation is one that is worrying, Chris. Rangers fans, Rangers in general, have had an absolute nightmare of a season in terms of players, high quality players being out long term through injury. The fact he's been out for some time, hasn't he, Kieran? Is it February time he's been out with that knee injury?
Yeah, I believe so, Derek. And yeah, again, it's one of those ones where he has had a few. I think he's had maybe like three. I'd call them lingering injuries for Norwich City. Not one of those ones where it's just a knock here and a knock there. It seems to be one that he gets that then keeps him out for like a good 6 weeks at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, but as I say, like, I'm not doing Dowell down. I think that he is a player that, again, like, if he's in the right environment. The other thing that's important to say, Derek, as well, is that I don't think he ever found what I would call his rhythm at Norwich City.
Yeah.
So he never got a consistent string of games, really. And like, maybe he's had like one or two, but not a lot. And so again, I think an opportunity for Rangers is that if you can give Kieran the space and time to find his rhythm and give him consistent game time, he could be a player that then just like doesn't have those little injuries, because he's just used to that sort of requirement in terms of the consistency of games that he needs to play. But yeah, no, I think it's a decent enough signing, Derek, to be honest with you. Honestly, I don't think it's a signing that I would be, buzzing about, but it is a signing. If I was a Rangers fan, I'd go, yeah, that's a decent signing. I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah, and just a quick word on you guys, Chris. When we spoke to you back in January, you were all giddy when David Wagner came in, and like you say, it's a honeymoon period. What went wrong?
Oh, honestly, mate, I don't even know where to begin. There's so many fires at Norwich City that need to be put out both on and off the pitch. We are, I guess, one of those clubs that are now in what I would call the ghost of Premier League's past, essentially. The likes of West Brom, Stoke, Swansea, obviously now us. One of those clubs where, just without that big investment, it's almost unattainable now to survive. People are comparing Norwich City to the likes of Brentford and Brighton. We're absolutely nowhere near it. Delia is down to her last peanuts, bless her heart. She can't give any more for this football club. We are on the cusp of getting some American investment into the football club, but it's going to be a phased thing. It's not going to be a massive takeover, Derek. And so it's been, it's been a really, 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 I'll try not to swear. It's been a very, very, very disappointing season for Norwich City, to say the least. So yeah, there you go. I mean, here you go. Here's something. You've just released Ryan Kent, haven't you?
Yeah, well, he's leaving at the end of the season. Yeah, so it looks like he's moving on. So he's apparently he's attracting attention from clubs abroad, and also down south as well. But he'd be an attractive option, I tell you. But I think there may be one or two Premier League clubs sniffing about him as well.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm just starting to think to myself. Rangers and Norwich seem to be building this sort of close affiliation now. Maybe you could lend us a couple of.
I'll tell you what, with Timo Pukki obviously leaving, you do worse than getting Alfredo Morelos in there. He'd certainly put bums on seats down there.
Mate, I would honestly, I must admit, I'm a bit of a passion merchant myself. I love a character. I love someone with a bit of fight. And don't get me wrong, you'll have a red card every now and then, but you love football for those characters, don't you? So yeah, don't get me wrong. I'd happily take him at Norwich.
Yeah, and are you still on board the Wagner train? The fans still believe he's the
guy? It's fragile. It's very fragile at Norwich City at the moment. He's won one game in 11, right? So that's arguably a sackable offence. And so, we have to start the season well. But I do believe that he needs a transfer window to sign the players that he wants. But ultimately, this is a make or break time for Norwich City Football Club, because if we're not in and around the playoff places at least next season, I do fear for our future as a football club, I have to say. And then you won't be buying players off us anymore, because they'll be rubbish.
Well, Chris, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on once again. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. If people want to find out maybe a bit more about Norwich City and the great work you do, how do they go about finding you?
Sure thing. Well, we're at Talk Norwich City on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever your preferred platform is. If you want to enjoy the roller coaster ride, which is supporting a football club that's been punching above their weight for at least 50 years, then come and join us and have a good giggle. There is quite a few Rangers Norwich links, to be fair. We had a great podcast ages ago with Alan Gow, you might remember.
Wow.
Who tells a fantastic story about the time that he signed for another club abroad and got caught up in the Iranian mafia. And there's a few Rangers Norwich links on there. So yeah, for sure, go and check us out. And I can't say anything at this stage, but perhaps there'll be definitely something that Rangers fans will be very interested in the not so distant future. So yeah, do make sure you subscribe to Talk Norwich City for that reason.
Yeah, superb. Well, thanks very much, Chris, and thanks to everyone for tuning in as ever. There you go, a little bit of insight into Kieran Dowell, folks. Thanks everyone for watching, and